Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and today we are talking to a nutritionist with a passion for fitness who has been diagnosed with autoimmune disorder and thyroid disease. She is a wife to a police officer and a mother who has been through years of depression, anorexia, binge eating, weight gain, and even infertility. She made her health a priority, practiced her education on herself, and has turned her life around and has become an elite athlete. How are you doing, Heather Mcallister?
Hi, I'm good.
Yay! I'm so happy you're here. And I got to ask what I ask everybody who comes on the show, and that is, what is the one thing, mantra, thought, belief, or just thought process that you have right before you step on stage in front of the judges?
I don't know that I have like a specific ritual. I'm not like a superstitious person, so I don't think I have like, certain people like, I don't know. I guess if I have like something like that, I always wear a ring that my husband bought me. It's like this really cute bow ring he bought for me. So I that's kind of like my good luck charm. And then I always have my daughter color me something. So that's something that I always kind of have with me. So it's like right there before I go on stage, and I kind of think about my family probably. And then I don't know, I think I just zone out, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't practice my posing. I don't want to look at anybody else. And I just kind of, I kind of just go into a zone. I don't know, like I don't do anything specific ever that there's any type of ritual.
Yeah.
I just hope that I can go out there and I don't shake like crazy, and I do my whole routine good, and and then I can get through it. That's really all I'm thinking about, if I'm thinking about anything.
That's awesome. That's really cool, especially with the coloring picture from your daughter. I love that idea. And when you said you don't practice posing, do you practice it at all backstage the day of the show, or you just don't do it right before you go on?
Not really. No, I'll pump, and I'll look at my hair and stuff in the mirror. No, I usually don't, honestly, unless, our coach has us go through our posing. That's the only time that I'll go through it. For some reason, I feel awkward. I don't know why. And I feel like I've done what I've done, and practicing it before it's just probably going to make me more nervous. So I tend to not ever practice my posing backstage.
Wow, I've never heard that. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know anybody else who does that, or I should say doesn't do that. So that's awesome. And I want to kind of dive into a little bit of your background, and also just for everybody listening, Heather is launching a really cool looking brand coming out soon. And Heather, I believe it's FlavoredPBCo, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you have your bachelor's degree in health and nutritional science. Are these things that you've learned being considered in the creation of your brand?
Yeah. I mean, everything that I'm kind of like brought myself to this point has kind of stemmed from my own health. That's what brought me into getting into nutrition when I got into school. It was like the one thing that I kind of could relate to, because I struggled so much growing up with weight and body image and the way I ate and all that stuff, that it was just something that kind of clicked with me. And so when I went to school for that, I mean, it kind of was because of my own health that I got involved in the nutrition side of it. Fitness, I've kind of always been active. I played tennis for half of my life, and I didn't really enjoy being active, but when I was younger, but I've always kind of been in the gym and been into fitness. So when, I would need to watch what I was eating, I would try to find lower calorie options. And I think I've been using powdered peanut butter since the day it came out, which was probably, I don't know, 10 or something years ago, because I would never put peanut butter in my house. Now I have like 50 jars of it, and it's like my go-to staple every day, twice a day, sometimes 3. But there was a point when I would never, ever have peanut butter in my house. That was such a waste of calories to me, but I loved it. So I would substitute with peanut powder, but it's just, it's kind of boring. There's really nothing special about it. So I would add stuff to it. And that's just kind of over the years of me using it and like me being so obsessed with peanut butter, it just kind of happened. I don't,
That's
I
awesome.
don't know.
That's so cool. I love it. I think everybody can agree that peanut butter is amazing. And now I want to know, like, when you were studying nutritional science, was that because of some of the things that you had gone through prior, or were you already into fitness at that point?
It was, it took me a really long time to graduate college. I went to 3 different colleges. I started off wanting to be a veterinarian. And then once I got into that, the only thing that I did good at was the actual nutrition for animals part. And then the rest of it, I decided it wasn't for me. Then I kind of switched and got into wanting to do interior decorating. And then I realized I didn't like shopping for furniture, so that didn't make sense. And then in my early 20s, I did a study abroad program, and I lived in London for like 6 months, and I did an international business program. The living in London part was fun, but the rest of it was really super boring. And when I come back, because I had taken so much time away from my other college, I went through a different college. They like dropped me, and I would have had to admit myself into that college. And I said, I don't want to deal with that. So I stuck and finished out my AA at a junior college. And that's when I got into a nutrition class, and it just, everything with the nutrition and fitness kind of just clicked with me. And yes, that was the point in time where I was not eating. Like I was struggling with eating. I had an eating disorder at that point. And I think that's probably why I connected with it. So I had already been kind of having issues with, dieting and stuff for a while before I had gotten into wanting to be in nutrition. I didn't go into dietetics per se, because I didn't want to work in a hospital environment. I wanted to deal with real people that had nutritional needs that weren't medical, if that makes sense. I didn't want to work in a hospital kind of thing.
That makes total sense. It really does. That's actually I started my degree in dietetics, nutrition and dietetics. So that's what I have my AA in. However, for the same reason, I decided to not continue because I didn't see myself working in a hospital or clinic. Right. I really appreciate the holistic approach a lot more. And I found that people in hospitals, they're in a critical situation. They need that kind of attention. People in day-to-day life, they should not be put on hardcore diets. They need to be given actual tools to create lifestyles that make sense for them. Right. So I could totally understand and relate. And at what points, because you mentioned you had an eating disorder at this point in your life, but at what other points in your life did your eating disorders show up? And did you go to therapy or recovery for them?
No, it happened right when I got out of high school, and I went through a little bit of a depression, and I lost a lot of weight really rapidly. And I had always struggled to lose weight. I think I've had my thyroid issue from way before. I was really sick when I was young, and so I was put on antibiotics for extended periods of time because I had kidney issues, and so I would get reoccurring kidney infections. And so until my body matured to where I wouldn't get those infections, I was put on antibiotics, and I was on it for about 1.5 years straight. And I had strep throat and sick all the time. So I think the use of antibiotics, honestly, when I was younger, probably is what started my illness. And then over time, lack of nutrients, me being anorexic and stuff, I think probably just exacerbated it. But now I forgot where I was going with that.
Did you go to therapy or recovery for
that?
Oh,
right. Okay. So when I lost a lot of weight because I stopped eating, because I lost it so fast and everybody noticed, it was that's when I think it started. I didn't really do it on purpose at first. I didn't try to lose weight. I had something happen in my life that I got depressed, and when I get depressed, I don't eat. And that losing that weight is what I think initially started my issue with my body, because I had lost that much weight and I finally got to where I was skinny, and I liked being skinny. And the only way I knew how to stay skinny was to starve myself, because everything else I had tried never worked. And I probably fluctuated a bit from that point, and all the way through my 20s, though, I think my thyroid got worse and worse. And unless I starved myself and exercised myself to death, I couldn't keep weight off. So then I would starve, and then I would go out with friends, and everybody thought it was cute because I was so skinny. And I would stuff myself with like 5 desserts. I would eat like a little shrimp appetizer, like a little salad, and then I would gorge on like desserts. I would go to like 4 different frozen yogurt places, so nobody would see me go like to the same one all the time, because I would like get one frozen yogurt and it wasn't enough. I'd go get another one, and it was bad. Now that I look back, I think I knew it then, but you know, I don't know. I was living by myself. Nobody saw me. Nobody paid attention. Nobody really knew what I was going through. But when I moved home after I graduated college, I couldn't really hide it, because I moved back with my parents, and I started going back out with my friends again. And just little by little, I started gaining some weight, and then I met my husband, and we ate really badly, and probably not even bad. It was just more than what I was used to eating. And I blew up. Like, I mean, I put on like 50 pounds in a matter of a couple of months, because I had, starved myself for so long. And that's when I gained a ton of weight. And that's when I really got really, really sick and knew there was something wrong with me. I'd had tons of blood work done, and sent it to Berkeley, and everything's normal. Everything was always normal. And I was like, look, I know I'm not normal. This isn't normal. But I could never get a doctor I knew it was wrong with me, but I couldn't diagnose myself and give myself medication. And I remember one time I was with my husband, and we were standing out in a parking lot. And mind you, I was so skinny for so long. Like, I mean, I was tiny for a really long, I was able to maintain it for a long time. And I had gained so much weight so fast. I just remember looking down at my legs, and I had cellulite on the front of my thighs. And I asked him, I said, can you see that cellulite? He was honest. He said yes. And I just remember being like, oh my God, that's it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Because at that point I was trying to starve myself too. I remember writing all my calories down, and like I would eat like 800 calories, but then I would binge eat. And we would go get cheesecakes and, drink wine, and it would just, I would starve, but then we would go out, and I would, and I just blew up. And around that time was when I finally found a doctor, and she finally diagnosed me, and I got on medication, and then I started working out more consistently, and it finally started to come off. But there was a really dark time there where it was really, really, really hard for me. I will never go back to that place. So I'm just as crazy now. I just don't have an eating disorder. I just have a mental disorder. I'm sure, don't we all? So.
Especially in this world of competing, a lot of people would actually say that the way that we live our lives is it's qualifiable as an eating disorder or a disorder in and of itself. Just because it's these are words that I'm quoting, restrictive, and it's deprivation, and it's very strict. So, and those are not false statements. They're totally true. And it's not like we can argue against them or say, oh, well, yeah, there's different approaches. But at the end of the day, there's a level of extreme that has to be reached in order to get to the level of extreme that's brought on stage. And there's never going to be
definitely
a way to deny that. And when you said that you were like starving yourself, and then you'd go and binge, and you'd restrict your calories, and then you'd go and binge, and it was this cycle that you were repeating until you got the help you needed. But I'm curious, like, when you were doing that, like, do you ever find that shows up? I shouldn't say when you were doing this, but do you ever find that it shows up as a competitor, or do you see it? Because I see it in other competitors where after a show they live a lifestyle like that, where they're like, well, I'm just going to follow like macros and I'll just limit myself and then I'll binge on dinner tonight. And it's a similar pattern. Did you ever experience that later?
No, I have to say that well, it's a little different for me because I ended up, I had my daughter before I started competing. I didn't stop. Once I found out about my thyroid, I still wasn't feeling great, after I got put on medication. So I continued to educate myself and look up stuff and did what I could on my end, diet-wise, supplement-wise, to try to help. I've switched multiple doctors. I finally recently found somebody who's really good, and I'm at a good place right now. But so I had stopped eating gluten after I had my daughter, and before I got pregnant, I was diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, which is like inflammation of the lining of the bladder. So I had to go on a very, very restrictive diet with no sugar, nothing acidic, no chocolate. I mean, I literally lived off of like blueberries and chicken. So I kind of already have, whether I compete or not, I'm very restricted to what I can even eat as it is. I don't really care about food. Food doesn't really, it's sweets. I have a big sweet tooth, but I don't really care about food, like burgers and stuff. Like I could go the rest of my life and never touch a burger or a burrito, tacos. I don't care about that stuff.
Pizza, but don't take away the peanut butter.
Right. No, peanut butter. No, I probably shouldn't even really be eating peanut butter, but whatever, that I won't give that up. But no, I really think that I've always been kind of, strict with my food, no matter what. So even before I started competing, if I went somewhere, I would bring my own dressing. I'd bring my own whatever I ate normally. So, I mean, from the time I met my husband, I was doing weird stuff like that. So I've kind of always been that way. I always brought my stuff as it is. So it wasn't really that much of a drastic change for me. It was the sweet, pulling out sugar and stuff, which I need to do anyways. But no, I do not binge eat anymore at all, ever. I don't binge after a show. I go out and I get some French fries and a salad. I'll nibble on some sweets, but I've got it under control. I didn't go get help. I just did it myself. I obviously have an obsessive, addictive personality to a point, or I don't think I'd be able to do what I've done. But I also know when to like shut things off. Like I can stop doing stuff for the most part, I think. I mean, I smoked for a really long time. I smoked a lot for like years and years and years. And I just quit, and I've never smoked since. And, so I think, though I may have I'm very ritualistic. I don't like change. I like things being in a routine. So that maybe seems addictive, but it's more routine than it is that. But if there's something I need to stop, I'll stop it. So, and then once I don't have something for a long time, then I'm fine. I don't care about it anymore. But I think a lot of why I did what I did was because I was sick. I wasn't starving myself on purpose because I wanted to be I was anorexic like someone else might be anorexic. I couldn't eat or I'd gain weight because of my thyroid.
Did you have hypothyroidism?
Yeah. So I have Hashimoto's, which does the same thing. It's hypothyroidism. So yes, it doesn't function, but I also have the autoimmune part of it. So my body's constantly attacking my thyroid. So my one thyroid's almost gone and the other side is quite deteriorated. So I'll be on medication for the rest of my life. There's nothing I can really do about it. And it affects a lot of other hormones and things in the body that affect sugar cravings and water retention, and affects your hormones, not just the thyroid. It affects everything. And until I found a doctor that knew that and knew how it all connected, I think a lot of things that I did were stemming from the imbalance in my body. And the only way the only control I had was to starve myself, because otherwise I'd get fat. And I did, because I ate like a normal person. And it was not easy to get the weight off, but once I got on medication, it did help. But I never really went, and I didn't go and see anybody for my eating issues. I don't know. I don't have any that I think problems now. I mean, I eat the same thing every single day because it's easy and I'm lazy.
And you like
And I do have
rituals.
guilt. Right. And I do have some guilt. I mean,
Mm.
yes, I go through all that, but I'd go through it whether I was competing or not. I'm not competing right now, and I've gained some weight, and but I limit it. I make sure I don't gain like 50 pounds, and or even 20 pounds. I don't usually let myself even get to that point off season, and because I'm not happy in that place.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean. I had to kind of figure out where my body was happiest and myself even. Like going off of a few shows, I was like trying to pay attention in the off time, like where does my body feel most comfortable? And I couldn't figure it
Mm-hmm.
out. Like I was like, well, I need to grow, I need to build, and then I went through
Mm-hmm.
where it was like, no, I have to stay super lean. Like I'm just gonna do my prep
Mm-hmm.
plan in reverse, and like I literally
Mm-hmm.
it was not good. Like it was good in the sense that I came into my next show like ready to rock, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't build. Like I looked better because
Right.
I was leaner, but I didn't build. So it was like a weird
Right.
contrast. So then I was like, okay, it's my mission now to figure out at what point in prep do I feel the best.
Right.
And then that's
Yep.
kind of where I started to figure out like where my body felt healthiest, because like this is like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's a lifestyle every day. Like I'm the same way. Rituals, I love routine. Like give me a schedule, give me a to-do list. Like I'm on it. I love that stuff. So I can totally relate to that as well. And it's interesting that I liked the point you made about how your version of anorexia was different than what maybe others experience. And that's a great point to be made, is that not all eating disorders are the same or made equal. Some people
Right.
can have an eating disorder within especially like the bodybuilding world, but someone could be following the same exact plan and not have one. It's also about
Right.
perspective and mindset. So I like that point a lot, and I think that people listening can benefit from that because it can be relative to just about anything in life. And I think
Right.
you kind of touched on this, that since you were young you felt like you had the thyroid issues. Is this genetic, or did it come from some of like the habits that you had growing up?
I think, well, I know that it can be hereditary. My mom has it. So, and I really do remember struggling my whole life. I mean, not when I was really, really young, but I mean, I do back from when I can remember struggling with my weight. I didn't eat the best though, so that really, I don't know, who knows. But I do think now that I know what I know, me being on antibiotics for as long as I was really probably damaged my gut to the point that I probably was malnourished and not absorbing nutrients for a very, very long time. And I think those deficiencies in things probably like, selenium and iodine and copper and vitamin D and all of these things that I probably was wasn't absorbing, affected over the years. And then I think once I got into the point where I was not eating at all, I mean, I wasn't getting anything because I wasn't eating anything but like liquor. I lived off of licorice and remember those Sobe lean drinks?
Oh
They
yeah.
were like a glass bottle and there was like an orange carrot one or something. And I lived off of red licorice and those drinks. Like that's all
Wow. Oh
what
my
I
god.
had every single day. It was weird. But that's all I wanted.
That's such a weird
Um,
combo.
yeah, I know. Once that was initially when I was more like not eating because I was depressed. When I wasn't eating because of what I knew was trying to keep weight off because of my thyroid, that was, I ate mushrooms and salsa, and like I would eat like half of a fiber muffin, and I had these like I'd go to this special store to get these little fiber crackers, because I was constipated all the time because I wasn't eating anything, and so
Right.
but I would like literally like eat like nothing. I probably was eating like 400 calories, and I lived off coffee and
Wow.
um, so where I am now is like a complete turnaround. I mean, like I said, I really do think, I was getting better before I got into competing. I was getting healthier and I was getting better. I mean, like I said, I finally got pregnant with my daughter and I made sure I was 100% on point with her. Everything that I did, I was as healthy as I could possibly be. Um, and um, but I don't think I would have ever gotten to the point where I could eat like a normal person like I do now and eat as many calories as I can if I would never gotten into bodybuilding. So I really think that it's actually done the opposite for me that I know it has done for other people. I think it's actually saved me versus created something, because I already had something. I think it actually helped me get out of that cycle.
That's so awesome. What a beautiful perspective. And I love that. And just hearing you talk is like, oh my gosh, all these thoughts are running through my mind. Like I have so much I want to know. Yeah, like you're really amazing. And I mean, Joe and
Thank
Ingrid
you.
from Team Edge, they always talk about your story and how much you've gone through and come through. And I'm like, what? This woman looks like she's always had it together, but that's you're shedding.
That's Instagram. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly, right? The highlight reel. Um,
Right.
no, but it's really cool because like I've read your posts and stuff and I do appreciate the things that you share. It's very insightful and you have come a long way. I mean, even just the things you've mentioned in terms of being an ex-smoker, going through these
Right.
eating habits and like, oh my gosh, you're so different. I can only imagine the transformation that's occurred. Like your lifestyle now that you live every day is different, and I imagine that, like you said, it like bodybuilding became something that helped you more than hurt you. And like what
Right.
actually made you decide to compete?
At one point, I think so. I started training with a trainer when I saw the cellulite on my thighs. My husband recommended, one of his friends had a trainer, and he was like, well, maybe you can go start, training with him. And so I did. I set up sessions and I started training with him. And I literally went to like 5 days a week. I trained with him. And then I would do boot camp, and then I would hike and all this stuff. And little by little, I was losing weight. It was taking forever, and it wasn't, as much as I was doing, I should have been losing a lot faster, but it was what it was. And then I actually got a job as a spinning instructor, and I was teaching almost every single class. So, from the training to the spin to everything, I was able to, get myself into to where it was my life. Like that was just my lifestyle. Now it got to where it wasn't, some people go and they go to the gym and then all of a sudden they don't anymore. And then they go back to the gym and, I got to where if I get focused on something, that's like all I focus on. And so I did it long enough and I started getting the results that it just became my lifestyle. And, I would not miss a training session. I don't care if I was deathly ill, I still would show up. It was like my mission to not go back to that place. I was not going to let myself go backwards. And once I saw what I always thought I was big boned. I'm like, I'm big boned. I'm just going to be big for my life. I'm just big. I don't know. I have big fingers. I'm big. Well, I'm really not. I don't really think I have big bones. I actually think I'm really kind of small for as tall as I am. But when I started to see what my body actually looked like under all that fat from being with muscle, before I was just a skin and bone. I was just like this lanky, I looked gross. But to have the fact that I had shape to me and I had muscle and I had shoulders and I'm like, wow, I am not built like I thought I was. It just became, another obsession and became my life. And, but I just did it because I liked it. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't do anything with it. I just trained because I liked it. And my husband had just mentioned at one point, maybe you should do one of these shows. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And that was after I had my daughter. And I remember calling somebody up in Northern California, and everything she did was online. Now, mind you, I'm used to going to a personal trainer and physically having somebody train me. I was a trainer. I went through, and I had to go to a trainer, but I'm a trainer and instructor. I was a certified personal trainer and I train people, but I could not work myself out. But she did everything online. I thought, that's weird. I'm not going to pay this lady $1,000 to send me something over the internet and coach me over the phone. That doesn't make sense to me. So, but that's, I guess, how it works. But at that point, I didn't realize that. I didn't know anything about the bodybuilding industry. I had no clue. And then I was still kind of struggling with, after I had my daughter, I did go through some postpartum. I didn't know it at the time, but I did. And my hormones were out of whack, really bad. And so we thought, it's probably not a good idea that I get into anything right now until I get my health back on track and stuff. And so a few months had gone by, and my girlfriend randomly said she was going to start training for a show with this coach. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe I could do that. I mean, maybe I'll do that with you together, and we'll see where I get. Maybe I want to do it. And one thing led to another. We went to a muscle contest show, and I remember sitting there going like, I can do this. I think I can do this. And I did. I don't know. I just booked a show. I didn't know what I was doing. I had my friend hand me in her garage. I did my own makeup. I looked like a hooker. I didn't know how to put on lashes.
I want to see that picture.
It's pretty bad. We get to the venue, and somewhere I read that to get yourself shiny, you spray yourself with Pam spray. So here my husband and I in the hallway with linoleum floor, and we're spraying Pam all over my body. And people are like slipping on the floor, walking past us. I was a hot mess. I slipped in these extensions. I sewed myself, which I actually still wear those same extensions, but I know how to put them in correctly now. I looked but my first show, I actually placed 4th place in novice, and I thought, hey,
wow,
maybe I can do this. It was a really small show, so I went back in like 4 weeks, and I got even leaner, and like I did not know anything about diet. I think I drank a Rockstar before I went on stage. I don't know. I actually found a picture the other day that showed like all my like food that I like brought with me, and it was like pop chips and like random stuff. And I was like, what was I doing? I had no idea. But I looked pretty good for not knowing what the hell I was doing, I thought.
Yeah.
And I placed like it was what show was it? It was one of the bigger shows. And I ended up placing like dead last, and I was just like, okay, hell no, I did not go from 4th to 16th, and there's got to be something going on here. I'm not there, I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And that's when I started looking into teams. And I remember Ingrid being there and being backstage with a real camera, like taking pictures. And I just thought, well, she's so sweet, and she seems so like hands-on with her girls. And I called, and they told me the price, and I said, I'm signing up. I sent them my stuff, and I never looked back. I don't know.
That's so cool. I love that. Isn't it amazing? Like, online coaching is so powerful and so cool. I see way better results with my online clients than I ever did.
Well, that's right. That's what I do now. But, at that point, I didn't know that like I said, I was physically going to a trainer, and like I couldn't even train myself. There's no way I was going to have somebody send me an online program, and I was going to go to, even when I started with Joe and Ingrid, I still was going to my trainer, and I was like, no, you don't understand. I need to do kickbacks. Why? For what? What are you doing those cutesy things for? And he would like make fun of the stuff I was doing. And I'm like, no wonder I don't have an ass, because you don't train me right.
Wow. You're like, I need someone to be here, but you got to follow this plan.
It took me a while to like break myself from that, like having to have somebody there to push me and to, do that, to be able to, do it. But when he kept like denying what I needed to do, I'm like, well, look, like, you didn't get me where I needed. You got me to a point where like I'm fit, but now I'm like building a physique, and like it's different than just training to train, because and if you're not willing to, help, then peace out. And I kind of stayed at the same gym, and I would do my own thing. And now I couldn't imagine like going to I don't even like working out with anybody. I wish there was nobody in the gym ever, and I could just like hoard everything. But like there's just like, I could not have a workout partner. I love being by myself in the gym, and that's just kind of now become my time for me. And it is definitely like my passion is being in the gym, not being in a bikini on stage. That is part of the process, but it is definitely the journey getting there. The challenge of everything, and that is what I thrive off, which I think most of us, I don't think a lot of us really like getting tanned, peeing through a cup, putting on a tiny little Dorito-sized bikini, and going on stage. I mean, maybe there are some people, but that's not. I'm very shy. I'm very introverted. So it's good to get me that adrenaline and get me out of my comfort zone.
Totally.
but I enjoy the process getting there more than
Wow.
the
That's awesome. I love every like just your story, like all that is so interesting. It really proves that you can turn your life around at any given moment and things can transform and change and be you can be a completely different person tomorrow than you were
Mhm.
yesterday or today. And I love that you really embody that and have been a pure showcasing of that. And yeah, with the whole getting on stage thing, I always like I love show day because it's that everything's coming together, but I gotta say, like, same thing, like getting tanned, being sticky, having to make the bed beforehand. No, don't wear deodorant,
Mhm.
you're gonna sweat. Like I tried, oh my
Mhm.
God, this is a real moment for me. I'm gonna share it. I don't know. I've started, so I'm going, but the whole peeing in a cup thing, that was a nightmare for me. I seriously can't even begin. I never did it before. And then someone was like, no, like it's really good. Like definitely I always pee in a cup. And I was like, that's okay. That actually makes sense. I think I could do that.
Mhm.
I got all ready. I'm like poking holes in these cups before my show. I'm like pulling up. I'm like, okay, now's my time. Like I just got my first coat. Like I was dry. I was ready. I'm talking everywhere. Like it
Yeah,
was
I
not
had that happen too.
pretty. It was
Yep.
like I went to bed that night and I was like, well, if had it been my first show, I would have been crying. Like my first show, I had my robe tied, and I was like, I ruined my whole tan. I'll be horrible tomorrow on stage. But like this show, I was like, oh whatever. I just got pee all over myself. Like geez.
Alright.
But like so like obviously some people it works really well. For me, I
Well,
was
I
like,
went through that
nope.
too. I went the same thing. I didn't used to, and it would get all over the place when I didn't. And then I remember the first couple times, all over my hand. I wouldn't get the
Yes.
cup in the right spot, and yeah, I still have problems. I mean, I'm 24 shows deep, and I still can't figure it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't had any huge messes though. I have to say I've been pretty good with the tan. I have really, even though I can't stand it, I haven't had any issues really with my tan so much. I've
Yeah.
had some dribbles here and there, but it's kind of a pain. But I've yeah, the cup thing, I don't know how I did it without a cup, even though it's still messy with a cup. It's I don't know. I make sure I have one on me all the time now. Yeah,
That's
100%.
interesting. That's very cool to know. Maybe I ought to give it another shot. Um, okay, like I said, there's so much I want to talk to you about. But I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. You were talking about when you were trying to get pregnant, and I know that you had
Mhm.
undergone 2 years of fertility treatment. What was
Mhm.
that 2 years like for you?
Well, it took a long time because of my thyroid. I was already on medication, and because of that, I didn't have periods. Like I went 3.5 years more than that without even having a period. So they were very sporadic, even if I did get them. So when I first started, it was, trying to just force my body to have a period, which it didn't work. And then I had to go through all of the tests, and on that stuff, you get to the test, then you got to wait till the test comes back. And then it's like, oh, everything's normal there. And then you have to get another test done. And then you got to have dye put up in your tubes to make sure there's no blockages. And it just was such a process of trying to figure out, one, what the problem was at first, why I wasn't getting pregnant at first. And then, going through the point where I was like, well, you're probably going to have to see a fertility. And I wasn't going to wait around. I told my doctor, I said, look, if we don't see anything major right now from these couple of tests, just send me to a fertility doctor because I know I'm going to need one. I'm to tell you right now, like with all my issues, I'm already high risk. So, I was over 30 years old and I have thyroid disease. So she was like, you're right. So she sent me to a fertility doctor, and then we started doing all the blood work, and my antibodies were through the roof. So had I had gotten pregnant, I would have kept miscarrying. My body would have just attacked the fetus, and I would have just kept having miscarriages. So it was a good thing that I did that, because it saved me from that. It would have been awful to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So then once that happened, they had to put me on blood thinners, and I had to be on that till my antibodies came down. And it was just a long process of going through everything that I needed to go through to get to a point to even be able to do, an IUI, to even get anything done. And thankfully, um, the first one worked, and everything stars were aligned and everything, went the way it was supposed to. And, it was it was hard because every time I thought I was going to be able to move forward and we were going to, get the IUI done. Oh, nope. Now there's something else you need to do. Oh, now you need to do this. Now you need to do that. So, by the time it finally got to that point, it was just, I was already exhausted. Mm-hmm. But, and then once I found out I was pregnant, then my progesterone was so low that then I had to be put on progesterone injections for 3 months. And so every night my husband and I would have to, put a ice pack on my hip, and then he'd have to try to, find a spot that wasn't bruised and, inject me with a really thick, big needle and really thick viscous progesterone. It was like in an oil base. Wow. And so it would ball up and get really, really hard. And so I'd have to put like a heating pad on it afterwards. Sometimes we try to warm it up before to thin it out a little bit. And for about 6 months or so, I couldn't even barely sit in my car. My back hurt so bad. But I went through nothing what somebody going through IVF. I would not even thank goodness that the IUI worked, because I know people who've gone through the IVF, and that's even more extreme. I'm thankfully we didn't have to go that route. Mm-hmm. But this was bad enough. It was hard. Yeah. But again, had I not gone through the fertility, they probably wouldn't have even tested my progesterone, and I probably would have miscarried. So, everything kind of just happened for a reason. She's here. She was so healthy, and she's, our little miracle baby. And, I don't really even know what the real problem was as to why I couldn't get pregnant. Whatever it was, I'm not exactly sure. I can't really remember. But, thankfully the IUI worked, and, but it was daunting. It was, but then that's one reason why I'm almost 40 years old now. At this point, I feel like I'm too old to have another child. Physically, I don't think I could do it anyways. I don't know if I'd have to go through that, but I don't want to go through that again. Like I'm good. Like we came out with like a perfect child, and everything went good the first time. I don't know what the second time probably wouldn't be so smooth. I just don't want to go there.
Wow. Well, that's amazing though, that all happened, and so beautifully too. Like, even though it was such a process, I can only imagine like the payoff and the moment, not only like every moment. I imagine that was just so beautiful, amplified by 10, 20, 30, 100. I bet it was just such a powerful and overwhelming experience, even just to give birth to your daughter, and knowing all the things that you went through. And that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you for asking. I tend to not, I don't want sympathy. I don't like people feeling sorry for me. I'll post things here and there because I kind of want to share things and make people realize that, I'm not lucky, and, so that people can relate that I've struggled through things, but I tend not to. I don't like to use anything that I have been through as a crutch. I don't tend to like to talk about it that much. So it feels good sometimes when I do get asked these things to get it out, because I do stuff things in. I just stuff and I build walls, and and I'm in my little bubble, and I'm very, closed off a lot of times with things. Thank you for, this is kind of therapeutic, I guess, for me to kind of relive some things that I've gone through, that like, it's okay for me to feel like proud of what I've accomplished. Because I tend to just be like, whatever. Everybody else, there's people that have it way worse than me. So what? I had an eating disorder. This chick's got cancer. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I don't have a place to, I had an IUI and I had to go through a couple of years of fertility. Like, I know people that have gone through way more and never got a child. So sometimes I feel like it's not even fair for me to say anything, but it's my life. It was my story, and it was hard for me, and it is what it is. But
that's right. That's awesome, and I'm glad that you can see that, at least in this moment right now, because regardless of our situation and other situations or our circumstance, our emotions still matter and they're still important. And just because someone could have it worse or could have it better doesn't mean that your emotions in this moment are to be neglected or looked down upon or shoved to the side. That's for sure. I think a lot
Right.
of people go through that where they're like, well, I can't feel bad because my life is actually awesome on the surface. I just
Right.
feel this emotion, but it's like totally like human, it's what makes us human.
Yeah.
So, before we wrap up, I have two more things that I kind of want to dive into. One of which is that you're currently taking a hiatus from competing to focus on building your new business.
Hmm.
What have you found to be the most challenging part about stepping away from being on prep for a while?
I don't know. I'm so nuts. I'm still doing the same thing I'd be doing if I was prepping for a show, honestly. So nothing. I don't know. I mean, I still go to the gym every day. I still do my cardio. I still, for the most part, eat my same stuff. I mean, I will, treat myself here and there. I nibble on candy throughout the day and stuff that I wouldn't do if I was close to a show. But it's not. I mean, I know it's not going anywhere. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish for the most part. And I feel less pressure. I don't feel like normally I only have like a few months. It's like I got to build my ass in like 2 months and I've got to get my calories up and I'm like stressing that I can't miss a day or I'm going to not build my butt, and so I don't feel that type of pressure. Like if I miss a couple of days, I just took 3 days off and I needed it. I needed a little break. We had stuff going on, parties and things. And, that I was okay with it. It's not that big of a deal. I know I'm okay if I miss the gym, but, I still kind of am treating it like I think it's just in me. It's just my life. I don't really, I'm not going to just, not go to the gym or I don't know. Nothing's really changed. I mean, I miss it. I do wish, sometimes I feel like I'm going to fall through the cracks now. Like, I feel like I competed so much and I was like, I was always like, in there. I was always in everybody's face because I was competing all the time. And I feel like if I take too long off, I'm going to get like forgotten. And I know what it took for me to get where I got to. I know what it's going to take for me to get to the next level. And it's going to be like consistently doing shows. And that's why I'm backing off a little bit because I know I can't do 11 shows in a year. Well, I just couldn't physically do it. I couldn't, monetarily. And, this business that my husband and I are starting is very important to both of us. We've both put a lot of work, and I saw it take away from my focus on these last two shows. My pro debut, I came in not what I wanted to come in, and there was I don't even know what happened. Honestly, there was a multitude of things that just went wrong. My fault, nobody's fault, not my coach's fault, not any. Things just didn't come in right. And part of it was my focus was just shifted. And I knew at that point, like, I'm glad that I did crappy because had I had done good, had I placed well, I don't think I would have been able to turn the switch off. I think I would have been like, oh, no, now I'm going to do another show. If I did that and I placed top 5, then I can place top 3. And I would have like went crazy and kept going. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise that I didn't do good and that my body said nope. And that way it was kind of just my answer to be like, look, girl, you need to chill for one. You need to like give your body, like, even though I'm not giving my body a break, honestly, but I need to give my mind, I guess, a break. My husband's wallet a break and just, refocus. And it's taking me time. I still get nervous about going out to eat, and I still, get nervous if I'm not going to be able to go to like tomorrow I have to go and I got to pick up some stuff, ingredients for our product, and I'm not going to be able to go to the gym. And I feel a little guilty. Like I feel a little stressed. I still structure my week to like make my off day be on a day that I know I have to do something for the business. And it hasn't even, once we launch, I don't even know. And that's what makes me nervous. And that's why if I was prepping for a show, there's no way I'd lose my mind.
Totally.
So,
Half and half.
like, some days I'm like, yeah, I feel great. Like, this is nice. I don't have to worry about, whatever. And then other days I'm sad and I miss it and I wish I was competing. But it's not going anywhere. In the back of my mind, I know I'll compete next year. I need to focus on this right now and see how things go. And I don't know, maybe next year I'll be so, indulged into this that it'll take that void and fill it with something else, and I'll be okay. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I love that you're open to the possibility and the opportunities that can come your way regardless. And I admire that you respect yourself in the sport at a level of which tells you to step back when you need to step back, when your focus isn't where it needs to be at the level that you want to be at. And I think that says a lot about you and who you are and your commitment to not only your business and your family, but also to your elite level as an athlete. And that's really awesome. So congratulations on launching and starting your business as well. I'm excited for when it comes out.
You.
Of course.
Me
You're
too.
so welcome. Yeah. I can't wait to taste it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, I bet you're just enjoying the tasting process, huh?
Yeah, well, all of our samples are gone. I ate it all and used it all to make recipes. And so
Got
I'm
eye on your
like,
own supply.
yes, I know. My husband's like, you cannot just eat what you want. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, at least can we just set aside one bag for me, like a month?
One a
He's
month.
like, you cannot do this out of profit. I was like, that's not fair. Okay, then I'll just buy it.
You're like, it's owner's pay. It's owner's pay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's definitely a game changer, like 100% game changer. Like, I'm very excited. I just hope everybody loves it as much as I do, and it fills some type of void for people that, like, there's nothing like this out there, and either there's a reason why there's nothing like this out there, or it's gonna be a banging success, and we're gonna freaking crush it. I don't know. I mean,
I like that.
We're setting ourselves up for that, but I mean, we'll see. Fingers crossed, but I mean,
Totally.
I don't know.
Do you think is it prep friendly?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely will be. I mean, I know it'll be, maybe, well, it depends. If somebody's counting their macros and they're a macro counter, yeah, 100%. I mean, they'll be able to probably do it all the way up till show. It's stevia sweetened and sodium's fairly low. 45 to 50 calories per serving. It's all natural, gluten-free. There's no sugar, alcohol, nothing like that. And so I mean, I eat it. I've eaten peanut powder all the way up until I compete. So.
That's awesome. I love it. So I appreciate everything that you shared so far, and I want to kind of end on the note of hearing your advice for someone who is thinking about competing, or even for those people who are currently competing and wanting to go pro.
Okay. That's a hard question. I guess it depends on where the person is in their, in their life, like where they are physically, how they look, job wise. I prepped a couple of girls for shows. I've helped a girl, and she is just a stay-at-home mom, and they have money, and she's, it's easier when you don't have a full-time job, because prepping is a full-time job. Like, it is a full-time job in and of itself. So I guess it would have to be, the reason behind somebody really wanting to compete. Some people, I think it's like a bucket list thing. I don't know. Like, I could, to me, like, to spend that amount of money and do that for a bucket list seems odd. I feel like there has to be like a driving force that's going to be more than just, a trophy. Like, you have to be wanting to do it for some other reason than just to win. And I think a lot of people do it just to win. I mean, shoot, I like to win too. I don't like to lose, but there's so many more reasons as to why I compete that don't have to do with a trophy at the end of the day, that don't have to do with winning. I actually sometimes like not placing as good because it gives me that like extra like, girl, you're not done. Like you still have stuff to work on. And then that just drives me to work even harder. So, you know, I think everybody has a different reason as to why they want to compete. If it's just for shits and giggles, like, I don't know, I would do like I would probably start with like a not so big organization that you don't have to like pay as much, and you can kind of get away with like a cheaper bikini and like tan yourself and do that just to kind of get your feet wet and see if it's something that you even enjoy. I know I've seen some people that have done a show and they're like, ew, I didn't like it, and they'll never compete again.
Right.
And then, you know, then there's girls that compete and they continue to compete and they continue to like not place well, but then they don't really do anything to kind of change. They just blame everybody else as to why they're not doing well, but they don't really look at themselves and fix the real problem. And then some people, it's sad that just genetically, you know, there's genetics involved. You, especially at the pro level, like, everybody wants to be a pro. Everybody thinks that they've won a show or won an overall that they can be a pro. I thought my first show, I can be a pro. I watched them. I can do that. Well, yeah. I mean, I got there finally, but you know, I mean, it took a long time and a lot of shows. And you know, I don't know that I have any specific real piece of advice other than I think there really has to be like a specific driving force that's going to push you past just getting a placement. There has to be another reason as to why you're doing this that really fuels a passion. There's a bigger reason as to why you would compete than just to compete, if that makes sense, which is, I sort of find that a lot of people were like ex-alcoholics, ex-drug addicts, ex-eating disorder issues. Like a lot of us that tend to kind of push past and keep going are the ones that have like issues.
Yeah.
I mean, sadly, but but that's because there's something bigger. We're trying to prove some type of a point either to ourselves or whatever that may be, that there's something, there's a little extra something in our brain that, you know, you have to have or you won't make it. And you have to be able to take criticism and look at yourself and say, no, I'm not perfect. I shouldn't have beat that person, because if I should have beat that person, I would have. If I was supposed to be first place, then yes, it's subjective. I mean, you're not just crossing a finish line. I get that there's other things involved. But if you want to keep blaming politics and blaming this and that, yes, that stuff happens, but that's not going to get you to your goal. You have to just keep fighting and fighting if it's worth the fight for you. For me, I was not going to give up until I got what I wanted. Well, to a point. I mean, that was like my last shot. Like, I told myself, if I don't get it this year, I need to be realistic that I'm being delusional and I need to back off, you know? So
Do you think you actually would have backed off?
I don't know. It depends. Depending on how I would have placed. No, I kept saying, I said that every year. But so probably not. I probably would have been like, oh, then I'll get up to 40 category and maybe there'll be less people. Though it seems like the older you get, it's more competitive it is. I don't care if there's less girls. Like,
all that muscle maturity and
yeah, it is a whole different ball game. I mean, and it is getting a little out of control. I do have to say that bikini's like pushing on figure and like, I don't know. It's crazy to me how much it's changed in just, you know, a little over 4 years. But yeah, I want to say like, never give up. But you know, it depends on the person. You know, it depends. There's some people that they probably maybe need to stop and reprioritize and find something else that they can, you know, do that they're better at than, because sometimes it's not for everybody, you know, and no matter how hard you work, sometimes, you know, like I said, a lot of it is genetics and, I have a friend, and she's been competing for a very long time. She's done numerous shows. I don't even know how many national shows she's done. I don't think she's ever broken top 10, and she just keeps going and keeps going. And I don't know. To me, I feel like that would just be so like draining. But that's, I don't know. It's something that she won't give up. And, I don't know. It's a personal thing, I think. And that's why I say I don't really have a specific advice to say specifically, because everybody has a different reason for doing things, and they may be right. They may be wrong. It may be weird. It may be dumb. I don't know. But I think, just if it's something that you really just, you got to really look deep down and think, like, is this something that is that important to me? I mean, really, is it that important? And for what reason is it that important? And, is it worth what you're giving up? Is the sacrifice worth it? Are you enjoying the process? Because a lot of times it ends up being not fun, and it turns into like a job. And then it takes away the fun of it, So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really here to say like who should compete and not compete and for what reasons. I just know for me, I'm just glad that I didn't give up, even though I'd still be the same person. I'd still be doing the same thing. So what? I have IFBB Pro behind my name on my Instagram. I mean, it's important. It's a title that nobody can take from me.
Right.
And it's something that there's a lot of people that could never get to that level. I understand the importance of it, and but it's for, it's not just the title. There's so much more behind it than just the name for me. That it wasn't just getting that pro card, if that makes sense. That kind of sounded not good when I said that, but I didn't mean it that way. I just meant, like,
totally.
It's not just a piece of paper, like it's not like, and that piece of paper didn't change me. That piece of paper did nothing to do anything for me, except for I got that goal that I fought for. I proved to myself that I wasn't delusional, and I did it for myself, something for me. But it didn't change anything about me. I still am the same person, and I don't know.
That's awesome. No, that's some really great insight. And I know that everybody listening is going to benefit in some way, shape, or form from that, because I feel like there's a lot of key points that you mentioned that can help someone to get a lot more clarity on their why as well, which is really priceless and invaluable. So I appreciate you sharing that advice, or not even advice, but just insight, if we don't want to call it advice. But that was really great, and I appreciate it so much. And I'd love for you to share with everyone now where they can connect with you, your personal Instagram, as well as your new PBCo Instagram. That'd be awesome.
Oh, okay. So my Instagram is Heather Mcallister _IFBB Pro. And then my flavored peanut powder that's coming out is FlavoredPBCo.
Awesome. And that's all going to be in the show notes. So to everybody listening, to connect with Heather and let her know how awesome this episode was, how much you appreciated her getting vulnerable and sharing some really powerful stories that we can all take lots of awesome lessons from. And just let her know what you thought about the episode. That's going to be on the show notes page, her links and everything. So you can go to www.celestial.fit/podcast, where you'll be able to click those hyperlinks and connect with her. And then, of course, I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this podcast. Just make it awesome, and please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review so more people can hear these messages.